Hello and welcome back to another episode of Video Game Easter Eggs, the series where we take a look at some of the latest and not so latest Easter eggs in video games. In today's episode we cover some of the pranks that developers played for April Fools, we discover a throwback to an internet classic in Resident Evil Resistance, and we take a look at what the latest Borderlands 3 expansion has to offer. As always, if you think you know of an Easter egg that I'm yet to cover, then the best place to let me know is in the comment section or on my social media accounts, the links to which are in the description. Oh, and if you're enjoying this series, then a like is really appreciated. Anyway, without further delay, let's get started. So to start things off, let's take another quick look at Doom Eternal. Having already made a video covering 25 Easter eggs in Doom Eternal, you guys are still telling me there are more Easter eggs to find. This particular Easter egg is one that we've sort of covered already. If you watched my Doom Eternal video, you may remember the lone balloon we found in a sewer pipe. Try as we might, we couldn't seem to pop it. Well, it turns out that balloon wasn't the only balloon on the map, and they in fact can be destroyed. There are 3 balloons in total that when popped leave you with a nice surprise. So for popping the 3 balloons, we are treated with a cake. As you saw, the balloons aren't always a one-shot pop, and if I'm honest, I'm not sure if there's a trick to get them to pop or if it's just random. What I will say, for those who want to try this for themselves, playing on a higher difficulty resulted in easier pops. Now that may have been a coincidence, but that's certainly what it felt like. Of course, this isn't the first cake we've seen in the Doom series, with both a balloon and a cake being found in Doom 2016. Okay, so I know this is a bit late, but April Fools and video games usually produce some pretty cool results, and thankfully 2020 is no different. First up, we have the ever brilliant Dying Light, which celebrated April Fools by teaming up with the free-to-play PC game Unturned. What this meant for players was the appearance of these odd looking zombies. Now whilst this event was only available on PC, the Unturned weapon pack, which is currently free for PC users, will be available as a free download later in the month for consoles. The next game to get the April Fool's treatment was Overwatch. Now of course Blizzard are no stranger to seasonal events, so Overwatch was always going to be a game worth keeping an eye on. Pun intended. During the event, all characters in the game were given googly eyes, with these being some of my favourites. Hopefully that keeping an eye on pun makes sense now. So whilst we're all on lockdown, you're probably going to see some pretty strange and obscure games that you've never played or heard of before being covered on this channel. Now Strange Brigade isn't a game that I would call obscure by any means, but it's definitely a game that I hadn't given a look until this past week. Strange Brigade is a co-op third-person shooter developed by the guys and girls at Rebellion, the same people behind the Easter egg-filled zombie shooter Zombie Army 4 Dead War. Now while Strange Brigade isn't as full of references as Zombie Army 4, I did notice this when I was just starting out.
It belongs in a museum, or in our bank accounts.
So the phrase, "that belongs in a museum," is a reference to the famous line said by Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade.
This is the second time I've had to reclaim my property from you.
That belongs in a museum.
So do you.
Ouch town population, you bro!
Oh, and any fellow Hearthstone players may also recognise it as a line spoken by Harrison Jones when you play that card.
That belongs in a museum.
As I said, I've only just started playing Strange Brigade, so if you guys know of any other references or Easter eggs in the game, then be sure to let me know. Up next, let's take a look at the latest Borderlands 3 DLC, Guns, Love and Tentacles, the marriage of Wainwright and Hammerlock. Try saying that 5 times fast. This is actually a really good DLC in my opinion, with some awesome side quests and some pretty cool Easter eggs tucked away too. First up is a gun that I'm not sure is a DLC exclusive, but I found it whilst playing the DLC. So the Hot Raptor serial killer has a red text that reads, "Look at that unsubtle blood red colouring." This is a reference to this scene from the 2000 Christian Bale film American Psycho.
Look at that subtle off-white colouring. The tasteful thickness of it. Oh my god. It even has a watermark.
So long-time viewers of this series will be aware of the challenge that I've set myself for this year. My aim is to include a Titanic, It, or Back to the Future reference in every episode of this series for the rest of the year, just to prove how common those Easter eggs are. And as if to hammer my point home even more, this will be the first of 2 Titanic Easter eggs in this episode. First up, in the Skidmore Basin, you can find this. So this poor soul was gripping onto this door for dear life before finally succumbing to the cold. Of course, this is a reference to this infamous scene from James Cameron's Titanic. This next Easter egg is probably my favourite from the new expansion, just because the game it references is so damn good. In the Nagul Nashai area, you can find this. So this is almost certainly a reference to the first few moments of Uncharted 2, where Nathan Drake finds himself hanging off a train that is precariously balanced on a cliff edge. Up next is an Easter egg that we have seen in video games before, but thankfully not quite as often as a red balloon or a DeLorean. Once again, in the Skidmore Basin, you can find this. So this is a reference to this scene from Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. As I said, this particular scene has been referenced in video games a few times before, most notably in Saints Row 4, which swapped Luke and the lightsaber out for a gingerbread man with a candy cane as part of the How the Saints Saved Christmas DLC. So in the last episode of this series, we covered the red balloon, paper boat and tricycle found in the recently updated State of Decay 2. Of course, those are all references to It. Well, not content with one very common Easter egg in their game, Undead Labs decided to add another. Just north of the fire station, you can find this. Yep, it's another Titanic reference. All State of Decay 2 needs now is a Back to the Future reference, and I think it would be the first game to reference all 3. I know that Daymare has a red balloon and a DeLorean, but as far as I'm aware, no Titanic Easter eggs. I wonder which game will be the first to reference all 3. The final Easter egg in today's video is a reference to a classic online video that is still talked about today. Resident Evil Resistance is the surprisingly fun multiplayer component that launched with the Resident Evil 3 remake. Now don't get me wrong, it won't be winning any awards anytime soon, but it's way better than I thought it would be. Anyway, it's whilst playing a few rounds against the AI that I heard this.
I calculate your odds of survival at 32.3333%. Repeating, of course.
Why are you doing this to us?
So that quote is a reference to the famous Leeroy Jenkins clip from 2005.
I think it's a pretty good plan. We should be able to pull it off this time. What do you think, Abdul? Can you give me a number crunch real quick?
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm coming up with 32.33, repeating, of course, percentage of survival.
Oh, that's a lot better than we usually do.
Alright, chums up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leeroy Jenkins!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
So that's it for today's episode. Before you go, I just wanted to address a common question in the comments section. Some viewers have wondered how people are able to comment on videos before the video is uploaded. The reason behind this is patrons and YouTube members get early access to videos. Don't worry, I'm not stupid, I'm not going to ask you to support me on Patreon, what with everything going on in the world, but if you see an early comment, that's why. Oh, and just to be clear, patrons do not get any exclusive content, they see the same videos that you do, just a little bit earlier, whilst also having their name featured in the video credits. Hopefully that's cleared that up. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, then a like is hugely appreciated. If you're a fan of Easter eggs and secrets in games, then perhaps consider subscribing, as that's what this channel is all about. And remember, if you have any Easter eggs that you think I haven't covered, then be sure to let me know in the comments or on my social media accounts. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.